what makes a quality brand?
First of all, it comes down to your product and being able to differentiate it well enough to stand out from the other brands, having truly better products than other people. And as a result, that will reflect on your brand and people will recognize you as a more premium player within it.
If you can just walk us through the whole process goes through.
Fortunate reality is they get a quick burst of motivation because they've just spent money, a few $1,000s on a course to learn. They have all that excitement. And then they're like, oh, this is actually hard. Don't make money in their first few months or lose money for their first few months or year. And so they think that it doesn't work and they say this business model isn't real. It's like a scam or it's, failure.
Hi guys. Today we have Michael Elliott, an Instagram connection and an Amazon FBA expert.
Yes.
How are you, brother?
Doing well. Thank you.
So it's funny how we sort of started connecting because I saw one of your videos and I reached out and then started communicating and then this happens. So for people that don't know, you've had experience in the Amazon world for 5 years now.
Yeah.
Can you just talk us through the journey of the beginnings and where you're at now?
Yeah, for sure. Do you want me to go even where I started before Amazon?
Pretty deep.
Yeah.
From the beginning.
Definitely. Yeah. So before I even got into Amazon FBA, I was really big into music production like we were talking about. And that's what I'd been doing throughout high school for 4-ish years probably. That is what I wanted to be my kind of career. And so I ended up applying for a competition at a music school. It was called Nimbus. I think they're out of business now, but they're in Vancouver at the time. And entered this competition to win a scholarship. I ended up winning the scholarship and I was super pumped and went for 2 months and then completely lost my passion and dropped out. Still don't really know why to this day. I feel maybe going to school for something that's so creative maybe turned me off. So I just completely stopped and my parents were pissed. They're like, what the fuck are you doing? You just had a scholarship. This is your dream. And you just kind of flushed it down the toilet. And so I always knew at a young age I wanted to do something for myself. And so I thought it was going to be production and then dropped out. And so I don't know what, but I want to do something. And I came across Amazon FBA because I searched up how to make money online. And so I came across, dropshipping, FBA, digital marketing, just all the e-commerce, different business models. And then, I ultimately tried FBA, lost $6,000 my first time on a money gun. And second product I did with a buddy of mine were collapsible metal straws. Those sold out in 2 months, but margins were too slim, lost another $1,000, $2,000 probably. And so it wasn't until a year and a half in of doing this and my third product that I launched, which was a smell-proof bag, that was the first successful product I had, where I finally saw results. So it was almost lost $10K over the course of almost 2 years until I saw any results. But that's just kind of how I started. And then where I'm at now, I've launched over 30 products, have a couple different brands. I just started a new brand 2 months ago, which is my big focus now, pretty much putting all of my time and energy into that. And I'm also kind of on the side right now with a buddy of mine. We're launching just a new product, which I'm excited about because it's very much within what I use in my lifestyle. Same with my new brand. And so, just more focused on I feel being a bit more passion driven behind the stuff I sell now. Whereas before is very data driven, which you kind of have to be like that in the beginning. But now just focused on more selling things that I actually care about. And it's been fun.
So Amazon FBA, what is the difference between that and the traditional dropshipping? Or is there a difference?
Yeah, there is. Dropshipping is more buying inventory after someone buys your product. So there's no upfront inventory risk. Whereas Amazon FBA private label, you are purchasing inventory upfront. So we might start with, 500 units of a product, get it made usually in China, sent from that warehouse to an Amazon warehouse in the US, and they'll fulfill it for you. So you start with upfront inventory. You're also on Amazon, whereas dropshipping is typically your own website. You don't buy inventory until someone purchases your product. You have to learn how to market on Facebook ads, Google, influencers, etc. Whereas Amazon, you're on a massive platform already. So that's kind of where they differ. Yeah.
So how come you personally chose FBA over dropshipping?
I actually started by researching dropshipping first, and like that's what I was going to start, and then I saw FBA and I just liked the business model better. I think because it was harder and more complicated, I was like, it's probably less competitive because you need more money to start it. And I had saved a decent amount of money by the time I started it, and so I was like, I'd rather do something that takes a little bit more capital and is probably less competitive because there's a higher barrier to entry, whereas dropshipping was like, that's what everyone is doing because it's super easy to get into. So that's why I chose FBA.
Do you think the landscape of Amazon FBA is like the same as it was 5 years ago, or what kind of trends are you seeing?
It's definitely more competitive. I would say the difference now is just you really need to have a better product when you launch something. Like before, you could launch a product and maybe add some sort of like simple bonus item, or even like sell a very similar product to other people and not do much to stand out, and like you would still sell. Whereas now, if you're really gonna be a good seller and see real results, I would say you have to ideally do something to make the function or design better, which takes more time and can cost more as well. So it's that, just like truly having a better product. And then also, I think thinking about Amazon FBA as you are simply just building a brand, which it's always been that way. But I think a lot of people who start forget that, like, at the end of the day, we are just building a brand. We are leveraging Amazon in the beginning because it's such a massive platform, but eventually we'll sell on our own website. Maybe we'll sell on Walmart. TikTok Shop now that's probably one of the biggest opportunities since like Amazon FBA, like TikTok Shop now. Not that we have it here in Canada, but there's ways around it. You can sell on Shop in Canada. That is like the newest and biggest opportunity I would say now, is leveraging both now. So it's like Amazon is getting more and more competitive. Yes. Now we have this other outlet of doing TikTok Shop, which is really like how Amazon was, 5-10 years ago in terms of like the opportunity to selling, and not as competitive. So yeah. And I would also say, when you're selling on Amazon, just thinking about it from the macro, like just building a brand, and maybe doing things that are more creator driven in terms of whether you're selling on TikTok Shop or just working with influencers. If you want to be a face of the brand and just sharing your journey, just because, you see like kind of founder facing brands doing pretty well now. So if you want and can take advantage of doing that, I would say that's another big opportunity. So yeah, just like being more involved and thinking more about branding as opposed to before, just like selling random stuff, and like you didn't have to really have social media and stuff too much. Yeah.
The question that I have, and this is it's more towards the harder one, is what makes a quality brand, and how do you position it across a landscape of different brands? Like, how do you stand out? What do you think?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, it comes down to your product and being able to differentiate it well enough to stand out from the other brands. And then it can also come down to literally just a brand standpoint of like, what is your actual branding look like in terms of like the messaging? Like for my new brand, I didn't really do much to change the product, but more so the actual branding itself. And I kind of like took inspiration from Liquid Death, the water brand. And so like, I think about them as like a super, super cool example of like how to execute well on branding when they didn't change much. It's water, and they just like have very edgy branding, which is disruptive to the water market and the typical water brands. So there's that route of just like actually making your brand stand out from that perspective of just like being more jarring or edgy. And then I think the other route is just like, having truly better products than other people. And as a result, that will reflect on your brand, and people will recognize you as a more premium player within it.
So if you can walk us through the process from maybe like the beginning, you see a product, right? You see a product and you're like, wow, I don't know, maybe you do look at the data. At the beginning, you said you looked at it maybe more. And
Yeah.
now you think maybe this would crush. And then you think about it, you're like, what kind of features do I add? And you buy, and they're like, if you can just walk us through the whole process
Yeah.
that goes through.
Yeah, I mean, we start with like researching typically on helium-10, which is the tool that we use, and a ton of sellers like use helium-10 as well to basically look at the data of a certain product. So we'll like put in the criteria that we know works best, and it'll filter out the products that match that. And then that's how we do our initial search. Now, the issue is like a lot of people who start selling on Amazon, they all put in the same criteria. And so everyone's coming across similar products. And that's not a big deal. What matters is, again, your differentiation. And so if I find something, I'm then like, okay, what am I going to do to stand out? So I'll look at negative reviews, I'll try and think of something. But now AI has made it super easy. So like I always use ChatGPT now for like different like design inspo and stuff. I'll go in there and just be like, give me 5 ways to make the design better or the function better, some sort of way to improve. And so that makes it so much easier. And then you can also have it do mock-ups. Like this new product that I'm working on right now, like in the course of like a couple of days, just doing different iterations and stuff in terms of how we're designing it, and then it spitting out actual mock-ups so we can physically see how it looks. And so that's kind of the beginning stage. And then once you've finalized what you want to do, and let me actually rewind on how I talked about I don't like care as much about data. I still care about data. I would just say, when you're at a certain level where you're willing or able to like put more money into something, you can maybe have the luxury of like selling something you're passionate about. And in the beginning, you may not have that luxury. And so if you're going to make your decision solely on one thing compared to passion versus data, like definitely make the data-driven decision. And then it's reaching out to suppliers, usually Alibaba, reaching out 20, 30 suppliers, negotiating, ordering samples from your top 2 to 3 based on price, communication, lead time. And then once we finalize our supplier, usually start with like 300 to 500 units minimum. You don't want to run out of stock. And so that's why we start with around that. Send our products from China to Amazon, and then get some reviews first, turn on PPC, which is their internal advertising system. And then it's just rinse and repeat, like keep launching more and more products under your brand within the same niche so that you can create brand consistency long-term, as opposed to selling pet supplies, beauty, home and kitchen, because then you just lack consistency and it'll be harder to scale.
Hey, real quick, if you're still here, this is clearly resonating with you, so I'm asking for a quick favor. Right now, over 99% of people watching aren't subscribed. It takes 2 seconds by hitting subscribe and like, tells the platform that this is worth spreading. And by doing so, that helps us bring better guests and continue delivering high quality content. Also, if you know just one person that would get value from this, send this to them right now. That's how this show grows. It's person to person, no ads and no algorithms. So, like, subscribe, and share this to someone that you care about. It means the world to me, and it truly makes all the difference. All right, let's get back to the good stuff.
So that's like an overview. Obviously, there's a lot more involved, but yeah.
Yeah, makes total sense.
Yeah.
I would actually think that the part that you said Alibaba, there's like these new, I'm sort of sometimes seeing on Instagram, there's these new Chinese girls that are coming out of the factory, and they're like, if you want anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they were like kind of just like showing people during the tariffs that like you can literally get anything made here and just shipped to you, as opposed to having to buy it, on Amazon for more. But yeah.
But still, Alibaba is the go-to.
Yeah, Alibaba is typically where we'll go. The only other area I would go is, I mean, now it doesn't really matter because tariffs are, back down. But if and when they increase, like you can go to India or Pakistan. And if you have something that's more premium or like a beauty product, like my new brand is in kind of skincare, my product's made in Florida. So you can still get things made in the US too. It just has to make sense. Like if it's something super simple, then it's probably not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bro, beauty products, you are going down the right path, because I saw Hailey Bieber.
Oh yeah, she's a billionaire now.
Yeah. All these celebrities, I don't know how they do it. They just go into beauty and they cash out.
Yeah, well, I mean, their influence is insane, so it's much easier for them. But yeah.
Yeah, there's something in the water of the beauty.
Yeah, it's good. It's good because it just has, like, beauty and supplements. They're like products that just like for people solve such big problems. And so I think it has that virality factor as well, which is now like even more important than ever, I would say. Again, like utilizing things like TikTok Shop. So yeah, if you can choose a product that like really solves a problem, yeah, you're usually better off. But beauty is obviously, I would say overall more competitive as a category, and also it's more risky, right? Like anything you're selling that is going in or like on somebody's body is just going to be more risky.
Mm-hmm. So you touched on virality, you touched on like these different concepts that you maybe like in the back of your mind, you're thinking about a brand and about its subproducts or whatever it is. So can you touch on what are the whole overview and your thought process when you're choosing?
Yeah, I think now when I'm choosing a product, it used to be kind of just data driven. And I actually did like a little training on this last week, which is like data driven, good. If you can decide on a product that has good data, plus you're passionate about it, better. And then if you can decide on something that has good data, you're passionate about it, and it has a virality factor, then it's like the perfect product. And you may not always come across that, and you don't have to only sell products that meet those 3 criteria. But that is usually what I am thinking about now when I'm looking to sell a product, is like, okay, is the data there? That is a non-negotiable. It has to be. But then the other 2 things, like, do I care about this? Would I use this? And then the virality factor as well. That's pretty much all I'm thinking about. Other than that, obviously, when I say data, like the little things within that, is there actually demand? Is it too competitive? And then the other big thing, the number one decision maker for me is, what am I able to do to stand out? Like if I have a product that has all 3 of those things, but I don't know what I can do to stand out, then I probably wouldn't sell it.
This seemed to be a theme of standing out. So can you give us like an example of if somebody sees a product, how can they think about standing out, like an example of in life?
Yeah, I would say so I'll give a branding example first, and I'll just go back to Liquid Death. So it's either like, if you can actually truly just have branding that stands out packaging wise, like Liquid Death, the water brand, that's a way. So it's like they just like cut through the noise because their brand is just so weird and different from anyone else. So that's one way, but that's more difficult to execute on, I would say, and only so many products are you able to do that from a branding aspect, just because like packaging and stuff isn't as prevalent with certain products. The other option is just like design or function. So if I think about trying to think of a product that that I've done, or like clients, but I can't give away clients' products. If I had, so you could do bonus items too. If I had actually this is a good example. There's like these cutting boards. These kind of already exist now, but like it's kind of newer. So like a cutting board, and then adding certain slots underneath to have like utensils, and so it kind of works as a cutting board and a storage, or cutting board and adding some sort of cleaning spray as a bonus item to have as like a free gift. One of the products I sold in the past was the smell-proof bag. We didn't really make function or design better, but we just added bonus items. So added like some free things to the main product to bundle it that were relevant to the main item, which acted as a gift. And so it's like providing free value. One of the products we sold was a pet outdoor product, and we essentially just made the ease of use better in terms of like how you had to like, it's tough to like explain it without saying the product, but essentially it was just much easier to use than the other ones. There was less steps involved in actually using the product. And so that's another way, just again, that's more like function, just making it easier to use. So those are some examples. And again, the nice thing now is like, we don't have to think about it. Like when I started, it was like, you're thinking about it, you are maybe paying someone to actually like make mock-ups for you, looking at negative reviews. Now it's like, okay, just hop into ChatGPT and just do research on there for an hour, and it'll spit back hundreds of ideas for you and actually help you execute on them.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
the AI wave has made so many subtleties much easier.
for sure. Yeah.
The question that I can ask, and maybe if you're not comfortable, you cannot answer, but what do the back end numbers look like? Like profit margin, is it actually that valuable to go into this route?
Yeah, I mean, the minimum that we aim for is like 25-30% margins and at least $10 net profit. Like that's realistic. having above a $10 net profit, you can easily do. It just depends on the sales price of your product, and then also budget that you have to put behind something. It's only worth it if you're going to stick with this for a long period of time. And I think also, and that's with any business, but product-based businesses, doesn't matter if it's Amazon, any product-based business is very much a reinvesting game. And I think a lot of the people who talk about it online make it seem like you can make a lot more money quicker than in reality. It kind of takes, it could take a couple of years to actually start seeing a decent amount of money coming in terms of profit, because even if you are profiting in your first year, like, you should be reinvesting all of that back into the business. To give you a realistic example, like, most of the people we work with are usually doing, and this is like beginners, so it's like, and it depends on budget too, but let's say they're starting with like 5 to 10K. They're usually doing like 10 to 15K in their first 1 to 2 months in sales, and their margins might be 25, 30%, but you're not necessarily profitable right away. And so you might be losing money or breaking even in your first 2 to 4 months, and then you get to a state of profit. And so just for like simple math, $10,000 per month, 30% margin, $3,000 in profit that you're making, which is pretty nice. Like, that's very, very doable in your first few months. And that's just with one product, of course. And then the goal long-term is to build that up. And that's when you start seeing kind of serious income come in. But with that $3,000 in profit, I mean, it's up to you. You could pocket it, but it's like, you're not going to be able to really grow too much then, unless you have another job where you can like keep feeding the business, kind of more capital to build it. So a lot of it's just reinvesting, especially the first year. But yeah, I mean, like, it's in the macro, you're building a brand. Like, if there's companies on there that have sold for, 200 million, 500 million, like, it's just a platform that people use to sell on. So it's not like you're only selling on Amazon. Yeah.
So how many of your products, you said you had 30 products now?
Yeah.
How many of them are like kind of independent now and out of the Amazon ecosystem and are doing well by themselves?
So those are with 2 different partners I have, and all of those are pretty like self-sustaining. But those are actually mainly in Amazon. My previous brand, the smell-proof bag, which is called Focused 3, that we had on Shopify and on Amazon. My new brand is, well, it's on Shopify, but technically right now it reroutes, and we're on TikTok Shop too. But all those products are pretty self-sustaining now. And I also, like, I'm not really involved in those too much. I'm taking a step away from all that and like putting all of my focus into my new brand. But yeah, I mean, I spend less than an hour a day on Amazon stuff. Even with my new brand, I still spend less than an hour a day. It's not a ton of work. It's very front loaded, right? It's like when you're figuring out what your product's going to be and your branding and how to execute on all that and suppliers, all that, spending 2 to 4 hours a day. But once you're live, it's really monitoring your PPC, which is your advertising, and making sure you don't run out of stock. And for me, it takes a little less time now because I have some virtual assistants who will help manage those things. But even in the beginning, doing it on your own, once you're live on Amazon, you can't really spend more than an hour a day. Like, there's not enough to do. It's just in the beginning that's when the work's put in. So yeah, all those products are very self-sustaining. I don't really do much at all.
That's actually very interesting. You put the time frame there. So really anyone in this world that puts their mind into it, because I mean, the average person is scrolling probably 2 to 4 hours a day.
Yeah, I think it's probably more than that. Yeah. Yeah.
So, this business is very accessible to.
Yeah, I mean, anyone can do it. It's not super time intensive. Most of the people who we work with like have full 9 to 5s. The limitation is that you need money to start. Like, you need to have realistically at least $5,000 US. And I say US because we usually like focus, and myself, I focus on selling in the US. There's just more opportunity. So that's the limitation for people, is like, if you don't have the capital, then I wouldn't start, and I would save up until you can, or do something else.
So if you can run us, how does your day-to-day look like from when you wake up and when you go to bed?
So right now, I usually wake up at 6:45. I just, in the morning, it's usually answering just like any emails and like messages from WhatsApp from people on my team, or just for context too, like we have an education program teaching people. So there's a lot, I probably do more work there, honestly, than my Amazon stuff, just because it takes more time. So answering questions on that end right now, because I'm speaking with suppliers for a new product, I'll usually check messages from suppliers in the morning right now and just see any updates on pricing and stuff like that, just because that's the stage I'm going through currently. So communication in the beginning, and then I usually have meetings for our education program starting as early as like 8. And so usually go on meetings and more communicating with just the team and stuff like that for a few hours, and I'll eat, I'll make some content, and gym, come back, more meetings, content, and then I usually like go live on TikTok later at night. Like my day is mostly just communicating with like the team and people who we work with. And then at night, again, currently at night, because we're working with suppliers right now, they get on around like 5 p.m. our time. I'm still usually like kind of working and doing meetings around then. So I usually like hop on and start communicating with suppliers around like 8, and I'll do that for a little bit, and then I'll read and go to bed. So most of my day is pretty boring. Like it's really just communicating and like making content. I don't do much else. Like, cause like looking at the Amazon stuff is like just looking at it, like doesn't take much time.
So you were talking about like there was a lot of supplier talk and meetings there.
Yeah.
What really goes on in those?
Yeah. So the meetings are like more so sales calls, or like with our clients that we're helping on Amazon. For supplier like communication, that's literally just messaging on Alibaba. And like right now I'm in the stage of just getting quotes back from different suppliers and making sure they can execute on what it is we want done to our product. And so I'm going to get some as many quotes back as possible. And then tonight probably start negotiating with those suppliers and try and work it down to our top 2 to 3 so we can order samples, which is going to be the next phase. So yeah, the supplier phase, like for me right now, it's pricing, and for anyone in the beginning, it's reaching out, telling them exactly what you want, then getting the pricing, and then leverage the suppliers against each other so that you can say like, hey, this person's at 7, you're at 9. If you can't come down, we're gonna have to move on. So the negotiating stage before the samples, and then order the samples. Now you can base your decision based on quality as well, and then one more round of negotiating, and then finalize your supplier. So that's just when I talk about supplier communicating, that's what I mean, just trying to finalize pricing and what it is we want done and finding the right supplier for the product.
So your new brand,
yeah,
you didn't touch too much on it. You mentioned it. Can you walk us through why are you sort of having this maybe minor pivot?
Yeah.
And how does it look like?
Yeah, well, I got really big into, I guess like holistic lifestyle kind of stuff. That's not really true. I heard about the carnivore diet from a client of mine like 2 years ago, and he just said like he had really good energy and he leaned out, and I never really had too much of an issue, and I ate pretty healthy, but like I was just curious, and like because I used to crash at like 2 p.m. every day. I would nap for like 20 minutes. I would just get tired, like midday crash kind of thing. And so I was like, I'm going to try this. And so carnivore diet like changed my life in terms of like how I felt. Like I didn't know how amazing I could feel like eating this way. And so I did that for 6 months. The benefits of like my skin cleared up, leaned out, my energy was super stable. I don't like no more crashes. It started to fade after about 6 months. And then I was like very interested in just like foods that I was putting in my body, and the whole idea of just like really eliminating just processed crap, and came across like it's called the animal-based diet, which is essentially the same thing, but you eat fruit and like dairy as well, but try to have like raw dairy. So I've been like eating only meat, fruit, and dairy for the past like year and a half, with the exception of I have to have some miku once a week because I love miku. But rice doesn't bother me too much if I have it like once a week. So like I got super big into the foods I put in my body because of how amazing I felt from it, and I was like, this is insane. Like this is super cool. And then I was like, okay, what about the stuff I'm putting on my body? Like probably a lot of toxic ingredients and just like products I'm using. So I just started getting more aware and like doing a lot of research into that. And I came across my new product is called Animal Acid, and it's beef tallow for skincare. That's the first product within it. And I came across beef tallow, And I started using it, and I was like, and I'd been at a point in my life too where I was like thinking, I was like, I really want to launch something that I care about, and like it would just be fun to be passionate about something. And I came across this, and I was like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, I'll launch my own beef tallow skincare brand. And it's funny because like beef tallow is like blowing up a lot over the past year, and when I started selling it, it's like, oh, there's a lot of people already selling it. And so it's interesting because I didn't know like people had known about it that much, but still a lot of people don't know about it. But anyways, that's kind of why I got into it, is because like the carnivore diet, and then that just like transitioned into me researching about the products I use and all that. I started using it, and I was like, I'm going to make my own brand because I care about this stuff. And so going to keep on developing products in the skincare niche within tallow and other areas that are just like kind of holistic and natural. And that's how I got into the new brand. And the idea behind Animal Acid was taking inspiration from Liquid Death, of like coming into the skincare niche with a much more jarring branding and like messaging, when it's like in fact a very natural and normal product. And so like just having fun with the branding and marketing, being much more aggressive, and then that's where that side of the branding came from. But product overall, that's kind of how I got into it.
So right now, what do you eat? What do you put on your skin?
Yeah.
'Cause I'm curious too.
Yeah. So typical day is I eat a bowl of Greek yogurt with frozen fruit. I'll put like a little bit of dark chocolate in there, sprinkle some salt and honey on top as well, and all organic, of course. And then usually I will have my second meal, like Greek yogurt, like the bowl is kind of a meal. It's pretty light though. And then I'll have usually a bowl of ground beef with like an egg or two on top. And in the ground beef, like it looks like dog food, and it probably doesn't sound good, but like anyone who's listening, like it is fucking good. Like I eat it every day and I crave it every day. So I put Greek yogurt in the ground beef. I shave raw Parmesan on it. I put some salt on it. I throw in some sauerkraut, mix it all up, and then I toss an egg on it. And I usually have that 1 to 2 times a day. So I usually only eat like 2 meals a day, with like the Greek yogurt bowl as well. Or a variation, I'll just get ground beef, make it into like burger patties. I'll have like 3 burger patties, a couple fried eggs, avocado, sauerkraut, all on a cutting board kind of thing, and eat that. So it's some sort of variation of meat, eggs, fruit, and dairy. Yeah.
Bro, I gotta try that.
It's so good. It is so good. I literally, it's like I eat the same meals pretty much every day for the past like year and a half, and it's I crave it every day. I think it's because your body recognizes, like, once you start or stop eating processed foods, also you lose your cravings for that stuff, and then I think your body's also like, this is what I like need. This is what fuels me. And yeah, it tastes super good. You just have to like know how to. If you just had a ground beef on its own, it's like that sucks. But yeah.
Right, you gotta make it like
You gotta make it tasty, and it's still using like real ingredients. It tastes so good. Yeah.
You mentioned that you're talking with your team on a daily basis, and you have maybe some virtual assistants.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through your leadership mantra and how you go about managing a team?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say. So for me, all of the people on my team are contractors. Like, I don't have any actual full-time employees. So I would say there's a bit less culture, if you will. But for me, I just try to lead by example, in that the biggest thing for me is communication. And so like I am always like at my computer or like by my phone. As soon as someone messages me, I will respond. And so I try to, especially with communication, just like be extremely quick at communicating with my team when they have questions, so that in return they will kind of do the same thing. That's the number one thing for me, is communication. And it's super hard to find someone who's actually like good at communicating and has good response time. Other than that, because I usually work with contractors, they're usually already skilled. I don't have to train them necessarily in like the role that they're taking on. So I expect them to be skilled. Another big thing I would say is initiative. If I'm bringing someone on to work with me, take initiative. Like, I'm hiring you for this specific role. I don't want to be telling you what to do. I hired you because you are an expert. So take initiative, give me ideas, and just do it without like having to like run everything by me. So communication, initiative, and I would honestly say those are the two main things, and just not being a dick. Like, you know, be nice, be cool. But those are really the two main things I would say for like just bringing people on is communication, initiative, and also I would say actually getting a sense of them wanting to do this and like wanting to work with us on certain tasks and certain roles. Because a lot of people, I think, especially VAs, and this is normal, right? It's like, if you don't have I can't expect this out of people if they're not a full-time employee, they're working with other people too. But the idea is like, be so good to them and be willing to pay them what they ask, and try not to be like cheap and negotiate on pricing and stuff, because that will reflect in their work and they will appreciate you more, and they might prioritize you as a client to them over their other clients because they're contractors, so they usually work with other people too. So I think just like, I more look at it as like, I'm working, not to like sound, you know, kind of cliche, but I do truly try and think about like never working for me, if anything, working with me, and also like me working for them and showing them like, hey, like, you know, I want you to be on the team. Like, tell me if you don't like my style of leadership or how I'm communicating and stuff like that too. So like, also just getting their point of view of how am I, so that it helps them in the work environment.
I mean, I think that's a great way of going about it. And actually, I've noticed as well in communicating with you, you are
I'm very fast at communicating. Like, and it's a good thing and a bad thing, because I think no matter who it is, I usually will answer right away. And it's like, I should probably not do that, so I can not break my like flow of work sometimes, and like stick with something and not answer someone right away. So it's a good and bad thing, but I've always just like, I don't know, it's just like become this thing in me where it's like, I have to respond super quickly or else I think it's disrespectful, which is, it's not, but.
No, yeah, it comes to like a matter of respect. Like, if you respect the person you're communicating with,
Yeah,
then, you know, you're available and right away. And actually, I saw these videos that, I mean, super wealthy people, they still communicate right away, and it's how they're wired.
Yeah, they do. But the one thing I would say that's different, which I hear a lot of successful people talk about, is like, they either will only do text, like they'll never do calls, and or they also will only communicate or answer with people that actually makes sense to communicate with, like not answering everybody. It's like most of the messages are things you get are you probably don't need to answer them right away, which is something like I would say I need to work on. But yeah, communication,
Okay. So, sort of, let's go to maybe more structured questions.
Sure.
You were CMO at Cat Paradise.
That's crazy.
Working on Web3 and SocialFi. How do you see the blockchain technology eventually disrupting traditional e-commerce models like Amazon FBA?
That's a crazy question. First of all, I won't be able to answer that question that you just asked because I don't know much about it. That title was from like, I guess 2 years ago. The chief marketing officer. I'll give you the backstory because like it's actually insane. I met someone when I was viewing an apartment who asked me what I did. I said Amazon FBA and stuff, and they introduced me to a friend who wanted to get into it, who was starting a crypto project called Cat Paradise. And I don't really remember why, but she asked me like, would I help with doing like sales calls and marketing with them? And they were going to pay me X amount of money to really not do much. And I was like, sure. And I was like kind of at the beginning-ish of my journey. So I wasn't like super busy yet. And so I did this. And essentially so Cat Paradise was it was like a game, I guess, on I don't know, some crypto game where I don't even know how to explain it, but like
It's probably back in the NFT days.
Yeah, it was like NFT days, but remember they had like, I guess, certain games that were within that.
Yeah,
too.
they wanted to have crypto in the games. You mint something,
Yeah.
get money.
So it was like one of those things, and so I was like, sure. And I basically they taught me about the project. This is so funny. Yeah, they taught me about the project, and I would like hop on calls, basically pitching investors and like people who were big in the space. And it was just the weirdest thing because like I was like knew nothing about this stuff, or like very, very little. And I would like research and like study their pitch deck, and then I would like be on calls with like these big crypto investors. I remember I actually like did a presentation on a Zoom like for a crypto some competition, and yeah, that was while I was in Bali and Australia actually, and I was just doing that on the side kind of thing. It was just an extremely, extremely random like project that somehow I became a part of. And my buddy who I went to Australia and Bali with, they were starting another project called Tap Fantasy, and he got on that and started like doing the pitch deck and stuff and talking to people too. And like it just didn't make any sense. Like we're these dudes who like didn't know anything about this really, and like they like relied on us to like sell their game and their project to like big crypto investors. And it was really interesting because it like showed how little people knew about the space, where like I didn't obviously know much, but like the big people we were talking to would be like, oh wow, this is like really impressive. And I'd be like, what? Like I'm just like not really saying much. And like it was super interesting. So I had to give that context because I really don't know much about like, I'm into crypto, but like at a very base level. So I don't know if I could even answer that question too well. But that's how that came about. So it's just funny you mentioned that because I completely forgot that was even like on my LinkedIn, and it just like sounds like a big role, and it was just like super weird and random.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, I gotta ask the question.
It's so funny. My buddy, if he sees it, he'll laugh so hard because it was just so random. And by the way, they were like a company like overseas in China. Like it was, it was like that. That's how like they were overseas in China. You know, didn't speak super great English. There was like a barrier of communication there too. That's why it was so random. Like it wasn't some local thing here. Like it was just so odd, the weirdest situation. But it was actually kind of fun at the time, like getting paid to do it and speaking with big people in like the crypto space is very interesting.
Yeah, it's just experience at the end of the day.
Yeah, it was cool.
And that's like how you realize that most people actually don't know much about what they're...
For sure. It was crazy, like, to be hopping on. I don't remember specifically who we spoke with, but I remember at the time, like, big names, like, oh, you're speaking with, like, someone high up in Binance or someone at BlockFi, like, these big companies at the time. Well, Binance is still big, but these like, executives at these massive companies, and you're speaking to them, and it's like, I don't really know much, and I think that they would probably know a ton, and what I'm about to say to them, they're probably like, what does this guy even know? But they'd be like, oh, interesting. I'd be like, what? Like, this is how little people know about this stuff. So yeah, it was an interesting journey.
So you used to live in Bali?
Yeah, I moved to Australia 2022 maybe, I think, maybe 23, just for the idea was, so my buddy and I went there, and the idea was just like get away from friends and family, just like lock in overseas, and plan was like go for a year. We stayed in Australia for 3 months, hated it. Food was bad, culture just like super slow, which is just not my vibe. I like fast pace. Australia, yeah, we didn't like at all. And then so we left after 3 months. We went to Bali. We're like, maybe we'll stay here for like 6 months or something. Stayed in Bali for a month and left. I didn't like Bali much either. I thought Bali was besides the food they had locally, like that's good, of course, but other than that, food was pretty bad. Bali's also like not really what people make it out to be. It's like I don't necessarily know if I want to say it's a third world country, but it's like it's not super nice. Like it's pretty run down in the streets and stuff. And so like obviously if you get to the areas where it's like tropical and beaches, sure, but like the actual like Bali and like the city and everything, it's like pretty run down. I think it's very overrated. I'd probably go back again, maybe just like for a month and maybe I'd try a different area, but we went to a few different spots, and yeah, I just gravitated back to Vancouver as I find myself always gravitating back towards Vancouver anywhere I go. I just think Vancouver is literally the best food, and in the summer it's great, and Yeah.
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, here we got it lucky. We have the beautiful mountains,
Exactly. The nature, everything, mountains, forests,
beaches.
yeah, exactly. Like everything, city vibes. Yeah. Everywhere I go, I'm always like extremely underwhelmed. And I think it's because Vancouver, it's like we have everything here. And I've never been anywhere in the world where the food is as good. If you talk about somewhere like Italy or Europe in general, it's like their food's amazing, but it's their cuisine is great. If you have something else, like it's not going to be good. In Vancouver, you can have anything and it's really good. Japan's sushi was great. Miku's better. Like some of the sushi here is better than Japan.
Wait, what's Miku?
Miku's it's a sushi restaurant in Vancouver. There's Manami and Miku. It's just a sushi place in Vancouver.
Yeah, I gotta try it out.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. So it confuses me when people say like I hate Vancouver. Like I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. If you are in a bad area of Vancouver, obviously there's like a lot of homeless people in certain spots, and like if you aren't necessarily like making a lot of money, I can understand it too, because it's like it is super expensive. Like it's foolishly expensive downtown, but those are the only reasons I can see why someone wouldn't like it. Otherwise, it's like, what is there not to like? Especially summertime.
And we're approaching it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to EJM Media.
Yeah.
Now helps other brands scale. What's the biggest mindset shift entrepreneurs need to make when going from building their own business to helping others build theirs?
That's a good question. I would say you have to put yourself in the shoes of the beginner once again, as where you were when you started, as opposed to like kind of where you are now, just in terms of grasping certain ideas. Because it's one thing to like become super good at something and become an expert in an area, but it's another thing to be able to translate that into teaching someone. And so being able to break it down into steps that are digestible and or somewhat basic for someone who's just starting out is important. And so I think it's difficult when you get to a certain level in terms of your expertise with a certain topic. Like you may want to talk about all of these complex things right off the bat, but it's like you have to keep in mind that they're starting just like you were. And so most of these things to you now may seem extremely easy, but to most it's going to sound extremely complex. And so being able to keep that in mind when you're teaching people, I think is super important. We've brought on only like 3 or 4 mentors like onto my team to teach others over the past like 2.5 years, almost 3 years probably. And it's because it's hard to find people who, first of all, are, successful sellers and want to teach, but also successful sellers and are able to teach and translate their learnings into teaching. So that's the biggest thing I would say.
It's interesting that you see like many business models, they first do the work, they master it.
Yeah.
And then it goes to like, there's a leverage sort of timeline.
Yeah.
And then it goes to teaching. It goes, maybe next one is courses. So you can do one to many, even if you're offline. And
Yeah.
there's these sequences that they follow.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it makes sense getting into education courses, just service-based in general, really. It's just like the margins are much higher. And so it's an attractive thing to get into. I think courses have a pretty bad rep, and not necessarily for good reason. Yes, there are a lot of probably like, even when people say like there's scammers out there, like yes, there probably are, but like even if you take a course and you don't think it's that great, it's usually up to the individual to make it great. Like I've spent so much money on courses, mentors, etc. And sure, some are better than others, but I've learned something from every single thing that I've done, because it's just up to you. It's like, you're going to learn the general idea of something. You can take something away from everything in every course that you purchase. And I think courses get a bad rep for that reason, because the unfortunate reality is most people aren't willing to stick with something for a long period of time and like have delayed gratification. And so they start something, they get a quick burst of motivation because they've just spent money, a few $1,000 on a course to learn. They have all that excitement. And then they're like, oh, this is actually hard. I actually have to dedicate real time to this for a long period of time if I want to see results. And then they don't, and they either don't make money in their first few months or lose money for their first few months or year. And so they think that it doesn't work, and they say, this business model isn't real. It's like a scam, or it's, you know, failure. And then they deem themselves failures because they stopped. It's like if you keep doing one thing for a long period of time, it's pretty hard not to succeed.
I think this section will be in the intro.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good section.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely correct. Like, even for me, for this podcast, I had this podcast for 18 months.
Yeah.
Originally started July 2023. And one of the contracts that I had, an SEO searches and optimization lady from Bangladesh, she kind of screwed me over. My channel went down in January of this year.
Damn.
But then you just pick it back up, and YouTube is like a long-term game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And so actually some of the things that you said reminded me of Alex Hormozi.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That's the lady.
Watching him this morning.
Yeah. The lady in the red dress. And
Yeah.
I actually wanted to ask you, who is the one person that you look up to?
Well, I want to say first, my biggest inspiration is Max, who is my guitar teacher when I started. So I started guitar, and then I got into music production because of him. He's my biggest inspiration because he was the first person in my life to essentially instill in me that, like, you know, actually do what you want to do and nothing else really matters. And with that, most likely money and success will come if you continue to do what you want to do for a long period of time. And so he was the first person who instilled that into me. And it was refreshing because in my household, I had a great childhood. I love my parents, they're the best, but they were like, my dad was more traditional in that, like, he's done very well, but again, more in the traditional sense. And so when I was starting my business, or like when I wanted to do music production, I was like saying that these are things that I like, this is how I'm going to make money. It was like very foreign and new to them, which is fair enough. But, you know, there wasn't support when I was starting my stuff really. And he was the first person who, like, he didn't really ever care about money. And I still don't think he really does, even though he does pretty well now. I just saw him recently, like 2 weeks ago, for the first time in like 5 years, which is super cool. And so, yeah, he just always had a great mindset of like, I don't care about money. Like, I'm just going to do what I want to do. And as long as I can survive and, you know, eat food and have shelter, cool. And so I think that's why that's like why I got into building something for myself, because the idea of working for someone else my entire life, like, I'd truly rather not exist probably. And so he's my biggest inspiration. I would say I still look up to him, but he's like the reason I'm at where I'm at, or a big part of it. Who I look up to, because I'll always look up to him as well, but who I look up to also is definitely my dad now. I think in the beginning, like I just mentioned, like, no one around me really believed in what I was doing, which, again, sure, fair, like, it's a very new world, getting into online business and stuff. But I realized eventually, I think subconsciously, he instilled a lot of values into me, definitely sales and just like communicating with people. And he's built such an amazing life for like myself and just like our family. And so I definitely look up to him. If and when I have a family, if I'm able to build, you know, a similar life for my kids and significant other to how he's done for us, yeah, I'll be more than happy. So I definitely look up to him. He's built an incredible life for us.
Oh, this was a little beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you gifted him a Rolex recently.
Yeah, I gifted him a Rolex about a year ago. That was fun for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to get something from him at some point. Like when I made my first bit of money, and most of it was like investing into, you know, stocks or real estate, stuff like that, and then a little bit left over to like buy fun gifts for my like mom and sister, and then I hadn't really got anything for my dad. I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to save up a little bit more to get him a Rolex, and so when I could, it was super fun.
Yeah, like my first really point of value as well is to pay off this house.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like the first thing.
Definitely. Yeah.
And it gives you fulfillment that it's not just for you. It's not you only in the equation. It's everyone you love. You're doing what you're doing. You're just suffering the long hours is for a bigger picture.
For sure. Yeah, 100%.
And also the thing that Max said, which was, I heard this quote, which was, if you're happy in life and you're fulfilled, when you get a ton of money and when you're even a billionaire, your day-to-day doesn't change.
Yeah. I mean, money elevates experiences and you can do more with your loved ones, which I think in turn does make you happy. So it's like when people say, does money make you happy? It's like in that aspect, yeah, it does. Because of but it's not money directly. It's just like the byproduct of money. But if you think about times when you're most fulfilled or happy, it's like when you're with your loved ones and like you could literally just be in the backyard, just vibing out and talking. Yeah, just whatever it is, just being with those people. But then, money elevates those experiences and you can do more of them because you have more money. But it's certainly true. The materialistic shit doesn't matter at all. It's very fleeting. It's fun, but it is very fleeting, and it's cool for a week or two. And then you either go the path of the materialistic rabbit hole of always acquiring more and more and things and more expensive things, which I think is dangerous, or you come to the realization that stuff doesn't really matter and you strip yourself of it. I can't say I'll always strip myself of it, but like I like to go through seasons of like, last year I had a fun car. This year I don't have a car and I won't get one. So next year maybe I will. But it's like you kind of reset your baseline. So you get to this level, you have a cool car or a nice place, and it's like that's now your baseline. So it's like you're only looking up from there. Whereas like if you strip yourself from that and just go back to, you can still have nice things, but it doesn't need to be nothing crazy. It kind of resets your baseline, and then you're like, not always chasing better and more expensive materialistic things, which, yeah, they're always extremely fleeting. So, yeah.
This is interesting. Yeah. Stripping yourself from the baseline.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Yeah. I think the idea of your reality or however you're living your life becoming your baseline. I think I actually heard that from Dan Bilzerian in a podcast.
Really?
Yeah. And then I just I was like, that's interesting. And so I didn't hear the part about like stripping yourself from your baseline, but I just like kind of had gone through it because like you get the initial joy or excitement for having a cool car for a bit, and then it doesn't really matter. So it's like you either double down and keep going up, or it's like because it doesn't really matter, and you're going to get sick of the nicer car also after a bit, because once you have it, again, it's your baseline. So like stripping yourself of those materialistic things is super refreshing, because now it's just like back to basics. It's like as long as you have a nice home and you can eat and you're with good people, cool. And if you have a bit more to do, extra things, more activities, experiences, great. But yeah, I think stripping yourself of nice things to reset your baseline is a cool idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So, incorporating friends into your life, what qualities are you looking for? Because many successful people say the 5 people that you most hang out with or maybe compare yourself with truly shape your mindset. So how do you go about that?
Yeah. I think this is actually something that I struggled with for a while. Most of my friends were, and not all of them are, but were for a long period of time, very different in that they were going the traditional route of going to school, getting jobs, which is absolutely fine. But I was like very much wanting to start a business, and eventually I started to do well, and they were still, and a lot of them are still in the situation of having jobs. And again, this is absolutely fine. It's just different, ideas of how you want to live life. But it's super important to be in a room of people that not only are as successful as you, but ideally more successful, so you can learn from them as well. And I've never had that. And so this past like year-ish or so is like, past year or two, a goal of mine has been like try and make connections and friends with some people who are doing well and or are more successful than you. So like I joined a group called the Founders Club, which is like
Bro, I've been seeing ads. My friends always send me like the
really?
sports, right? You play sports and connect.
No, there's a similar one. There's Founders. I think that's called Founders Sports Club, which I actually was in, and then I joined Founders Club, and I actually said the same thing. I was like, "Aren't you guys Founders?" And they're like, "No," and I was like, "Oh." But anyways, Founders Club, yeah, it's just a network of different entrepreneurs, and it's actually really cool. So it's like Vancouver, Miami, it's all over. And so I did that with, the idea of hopefully making some friends and connections with people who are much more successful. And it's been cool because I would say a lot, if not most of the people in the group are probably, at a higher level than I am. And so, we'll meet up in Vancouver in person to like either just talk business, or sometimes we'll just do activities, whatever, pickleball. I've only been in it for a little bit. And so that's been cool. I've also been really lucky because two of my like best friends ended up starting their own businesses over the past couple of years. And one of my buddies now has moved downtown. So he's like he's first of all, like, one of my best friends, if not my best friend. And he's the first person downtown finally of one of my friends that lives down here, and he does well. And he's like very, very motivated to, build his business and keep things running. And so that's been super refreshing to have someone who's like-minded, who I'm actually friends with. And I've just been networking just like this, just like connecting with more people downtown. But I will say I still am not necessarily like actual friends with like anyone who's like more successful than me. And I think just trying to, I also don't say that to like sound pretentious. I said it more just like I want to try and put myself out there more and get in rooms where, there's people who I can learn from. And so if I'm going to make new friends, I say this, do I practice this? Probably not. Like ideally, I would like them to have their own business and be able to learn from them, and they can learn from me, and we can just like be, talk back and forth on like-minded things. But I have a couple friends like that now that I'm super close with, and so that's nice. But I still have friends who like are completely different paths. They have normal jobs and whatever, and that's fine. And I thought that was a bad thing at first, but actually speaking with a group that I was with at the Founders Club a few weeks ago, someone asked this question, was like, I don't have any friends that are, like-minded, and it's kind of annoying. And in fact, like they kind of judge me, which is super true. Like no one truly wants you to win, really. But I've always been able to look past that, and I think I've been able to because it's actually somewhat refreshing being around people who are not doing what you're doing and just literally want to like, go out one night and not talk about business. And so I think it actually is both ends. It's good and important, I think, to have those people who are super successful and like-minded. But on the other end, I think it actually is fine to have people who are not at all on the same level in terms of whether it's just how you think about life or where you're at financially. It can be refreshing because it's just, no pressure to talk about anything. You're just hanging out.
You're absolutely right. I have come to that realization.
Yeah.
But I think over the times, for me personally, I've like caught more and more of those people that are not maybe entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And their stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I think it depends too. It's like for me, I'm like usually if I'm gonna hang out with someone, it'll definitely be like my buddy downtown or like someone who has. This is probably not true, actually. It's not true. But I just mean if I'm going to like hang out with someone one-on-one and take time out of my day, if I'm like not going out or something, I'll ideally want to speak with someone who's like-minded. But I still like to have fun and go out on weekends and stuff. And when I'm doing that, like I care less who's around me as long as they're cool. I think I'm down to go out. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, we're coming to one more question.
Yeah.
And we're going to go to sort of like the philosophy
Sick
aspect.
Yeah.
AI is projected to transform e-commerce by 2026. What's coming that most sellers don't know about yet?
I would say, I don't know if this would be what most sellers don't know about yet, but this is in my mind where it'll continue to go is development of products from AI. It's just going to become a lot easier if you know how to truly use it to help you develop and execute your product ideas. And on the other end of that, which I think we're already seeing now with with ChatGPT and like video and image models like VO and stuff like that, just for like marketing and creatives, that I think will only become more easier. And again, it will become more competitive for those who know how to actually like, use AI and feed it the right prompts. As I think for marketing teams may be less important, at least for doing like physical video and physical shoots and utilizing more AI on that end. But at the same time, I still think it's just going to be more of hiring people who know how to properly use AI. It's not necessarily what the marketer should do is learn how to use AI so that they can still be your marketer, because they're the ones who know how to like feed AI the right prompts. Because if I go in and try to like, I see some of these guys on TikTok like make these crazy visuals, and I'm like, what? Like that is insane. If I tried to go make that same thing on AI, there's no chance I'd be able to, because I wouldn't know what to feed it. So yeah, I would say it's both like product end in terms of like development of that, and then the marketing side of things, and like branding and all aspects of marketing really. This is not maybe something that people don't know, but I think those things will just keep becoming more prevalent. Yeah.
It's funny. I studied 4 years of computer science, and yesterday I graduated. But like I learned all these coding languages, and there's a new one coming out.
Yeah.
But these days, it's just prompt engineering.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What do I tell?
Yeah.
It's cool though. Like I've met cool people, but the world has just swept away that aspect.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it'd be super cool. Is that what they call a prompt engineer? Just someone who's like an expert at prompting? Yeah. I think that's an amazing skill to learn, probably. So I'd love for someone to come in and be like, hey, I'm a prompt engineer. Like I've looked at your brand. Like I can do all this stuff for you. Like, are you down? I'm like, yes, I'd like to see how this might work, because I wouldn't know what to feed it to get what I want necessarily. Because you could learn, but people are going to value hiring people for those tasks for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what challenges you?
Yeah, I would just say my business, really. Like every single day, my business is a challenge. Different obstacles you have to overcome, and putting out different fires and building new things. So yeah, my business, that's like first thing that comes to mind in terms of what challenges me.
What motivates you?
Business. Yeah. Business motivates me. Like it's extremely fulfilling. And if I think in the beginning, I think motivation changes for some people. I don't want to speak for everyone, but like for me and some of the people I've spoke with, is motivation in the beginning for me was, freedom, and really just, freedom, being able to do whatever, whenever, giving back to the people around me as well. That was kind of my motivation, and it still is. But at a certain level, you can unlock freedom and be able to give back to people. Past like, a certain level, that kind of becomes a reality, and then it's more like, okay, now what else motivates you now? And so like for me now, it's more just it's funny. It's like it is the challenge of building up my business is what motivates me, because it's I would say I've achieved what motivated me previously, which is mainly the freedom and to be able to kind of give back. And I'd really like to practice giving back to not even just like loved ones, just give back more in general. So that's something I'd need to practice doing more of. But now that is really motivation, is just building. It's just very fulfilling. That's what fulfills me.
You know what's funny? For the first time, I heard Alex Hormozy say that maybe it's time for me to stop, because,
on the Chris podcast.
Yeah,
I'm watching that right now. Yeah.
He's like, maybe I've accomplished all that I wanted, and maybe it's time to, how much money do I need?
Yeah, for sure.
So then I want to kind of project that to you, like, when is...
Yeah, I don't know. I also don't think it's about money at all, especially for him. Like, and most of these guys, again, I think for them it is more just like they love building. They don't give a shit about money at a certain point. That doesn't matter. But But it's a good question. Yeah, I really don't know. I think it's impossible to say when that time comes, because like our minds change constantly. And so if I say maybe by the time I'm 30, I will be ready to settle down, have a family, maybe, but maybe not. So I have no idea. I can't see me taking a step back from business in the near future at all. I would think come maybe my like 30 years old, maybe that's when, perhaps. But yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe it's sooner, maybe it's later. And I don't think I don't think it matters. And people are like, gotta enjoy life more, man. It's like, this is what fulfills me. This is what I enjoy. If I wasn't doing this, like when I travel more, it's like, I hate traveling for more than like a week. Like if I'm not working, it's yeah.
Yeah, the sense of fulfillment is different for every person.
Yeah.
And some people don't get that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also the goal is not like, and maybe Hermosi said this too, or someone, but I don't think the goal is happiness. I think it is fulfillment. Yeah, like, I don't know. Happiness to me is
Shallow.
Yeah, it's a bit shallow for sure. So the fulfillment is a goal, I would say. Yeah.
And lastly, what do you think is the meaning of life?
Yeah. I would say it's kind of taking pieces from my last answer, but I would say it is to learn and accumulate knowledge, and as a result of accumulating knowledge, give back to the greater good.
Michael?
Yeah.
It's amazing speaking to you.
You as well. Thank you very much. Yeah.
I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
You as well.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for sticking with us till the end. If you've enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future insights. Check out the videos on the screen right now for more thought-provoking discussions. Your support means the world to us.